the startup world, and we have seen over time that there's many groups that are underrepresented when they come to our events. I would like to open up actually the day a little bit about this facility. So Nate Gallen,
Hello.
is with Melanie and Myers. And they were graciously enough to host our event today here and sponsor our event. And he will also do an interview with Thomas a little bit later down the line. Thank you so much, Nate, for having us here.
It's our pleasure and welcome.
It's an inauguration event. It's our first event on the topic diversity, equity and inclusion and impact. And we are hoping that this becomes a regular series for the years to come. And we love this facility. It's beautiful. It's absolutely great for this roundtable discussion of what we want to discuss today and see that we can make this even in a much bigger event. My friend, philosopher and guide, so I have today the pleasure to turn the table, is Casey. Casey founded Pitch Global, and before this, basically a sister organization. So for over 10 years, you are in the business of startup and helping entrepreneurs, and that's also my mission. And today we come here together to talk about funding, diversity, and the impact that we can have. Casey.
Great, thank you, Axel. I met Axel, and we started Entrepreneur in Residency system for Pitch Global, and we were picked by State of California for about 6 years ago to mentor entrepreneurs who could create jobs, and they have been great partners, so I want to thank them as well. Through them I've met leaders like Chris Orton, and we have started hosting corporate venture capital events a couple of years ago, and in our recent event at San Jose State University, where we are mentors as well, CalGov's Office of Economic Development gave an award, Platinum Impact Award on our behalf to Korea's SK Group, because they have committed to President Biden to invest $59 billion over the next 6 years. So we want to bring leaders like all of you together so that we can cross-pollinate, have dialogues, and elevate one another to higher level of impact and consciousness. On that note, hand over floor back to Axel for this event. Our next event is on 22nd September during Techcrunch, and we just confirmed J&J Ventures. We are gonna showcase India. We'll have Ambassador Prasad there because we are tied with group which does outreach for India's PMO. In fact, the way the dots connect, they were hosted by the Dutch Netherlands Sovereign Fund, Prince Constantine and others last year, and they were hosted at RSA as well. So our vision for this event, annual event at Milken, is to be the top place for corporate venture to connect with sovereigns and really have the diversity, funding, and impact dialogue at the highest level. On that floor is yours, brother.
Thank you
Welcome.
so much. So we have a very intimate, private crowd here today because this is how we wanted to start the conversation, not in a big hall, not with hundreds of people, but we wanted to start the dialogue. It's about showing you what projects are on the way. We selected 3 of them. One I will present, it's the California Inclusivity Fund. One will be presented by Chris Horton, that's the National Black Entrepreneurs Project. And the last one will be Create Impact, presented by Rachel Carson. Our first speaker today is coming from UCLA. Thank you so much, from the accelerator of Anderson School of Business. Trish, I would like you to come forward and talk about your presentation. You have a presentation up, right? You have a presentation.
I sent it.
Yeah, then we go for this.
Okay.
You know, when you're getting at a certain age, doing for them while
Sure.
I'm getting your presentation up.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here today. Great seeing everybody. So I run the accelerator at UCLA Anderson, but we really support the entire campus and all of the alumni. So we've been doing this for 5 years, focusing on early stage. By no surprise, I'm psyched that we're running at 61% underrepresented founders. That is on purpose. We've had 8 exits, and probably about, out of the 101 companies in the longer accelerator program, we have about 228 million in venture funding to date. But really the goal is to give those who are capable a chance and resources. So the campus has a tremendous amount of resources, and we have a few companies that have gone in our program. There are 4 entrepreneurship hubs across the campus, in the engineering school, the hospital, the business school, and then the IP licensing arm of UCLA. And really, if you are a founder and you go through all of those, you can have a ton of resources, all gratis and all free. So I always say it's easy to get to first base. Also lets us read you as a founder, because if you're scrappy, you'll take advantage of the resources and you'll make it, which is great. Well, perfect, thank you. Into the bottom line. So as an investor, why wouldn't you invest?
Yeah, that's basically, for investors, it's a good deal because you get less expectations on the valuations, because many entrepreneurs have really unrealistic expectations.
Right. Especially early stage.
Especially in the early stage. And I always try to tell them also, you want to get the job done, right?
Yeah.
What do you want? Somebody who gives you money to move the next step forward, or you want to keep 100% of the company?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
That's a big problem, right?
Yes.
So we are so glad that you made it out here.
Well, thank you for letting me
Very great
share with
presentation.
such a distinguished group of people.
Question.
Again, thank you. Fantastic presentation. As an investor, both corporate and later private, and founder of startups, I will tell on us a little bit as a woman. I feel that a lot of women do not scale up a business model to the level that gives you this thrill of, yes, she's ready to drive $1 billion valuation in 12 to 18 months. There's this element of conservatism that you pointed out. So when I mentor women or I invest, I say, scale up. Are you ready to go for a big bang? Because nothing else will work. So, and I represent a big bank directly and indirectly, space economy, which is an incredible place for big bank investment, and diversity is badly needed. NASA just hired its first 2 people that are really committed to diversity.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So go moon.
Yes.
$200 billion opportunity, and go satellites.
Satellites are smart.
So I have a question/statement. So it's interesting when we hear these marketing terms like unrepresented and people of color. I'm not a person of color, I gotta tell you. I have an ethnic background. That's one of the big problems with America. They start with these terms like black, that derive from Negro, and it's always another term for people that look like myself and my wife. So I'm Choctaw. So for those who would like to know. So that's the first issue. And then everything that's derivative of that is banked on that classification.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So the other thing is, when we look at the whole landscape, venture capital is a power law business, but not just from the actual returns, from how the investments work. So when I look at, for example, the #1 question and answer platform in the world is Quora. But Quora's CTO was the first Quora's founder is the first CTO of Facebook. And then when you connect, Facebook was funded by Peter Thiel, which is connected to PayPal,
Yes.
which from that came YouTube. So that's one thing that I tell founders when I'm talking to them. First and foremost, where's your people network effect? All these companies that you're trying to match, they all came from the same circle. And they ensured that they kept that inside of Silicon Valley. Then they said, you know what, now we'll let you guys in. Here's YC. Now you guys can come in here. But at first, for a very long time, like even the Yahoo guys, like all of those people are connected, the investors and the founders.
Stanford too.
Yeah. So the other issue is when you say, oh, 90% of startups fail. Well, if we're talking people of color and women, they don't qualify in that percentage. So I would be interested to see when you're classifying, okay, because if they're not being funded, how do they represent the majority of the companies are failing?
Yeah.
It doesn't resonate.
Right.
So it's a lot of things I would like for us to perhaps demystify. Maybe not today because there's not enough time. We have to spend more time getting to know each other. But it's the same talk. Underrepresented founder. When I look at my wife, like she's a beast. I've seen her crush men. So it's like
the beast.
Yeah, we have 7 kids, so she can manage companies.
Wow.
Yeah. So 5 teenagers, a 9-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So I always tell my wife, I said, listen, if some bozo guy say something to you crazy at the table, don't look at me, because that's equality. Handle him the way that you know how.
Right.
And because you are a designer, you went to fashion school. It's a lot of people that talk to you that don't have all your skill sets.
Right.
So tackle him in there if he wants to play that pissing game. But overall, I'm just interested in that, like that texture of the discussion outside of these marketing terms, these classifications, this whole idea of they don't get funded. Okay, they don't get funded, but most of the people that do get funded, they fail.
Right, right.
So what are we actually measuring it against? We're saying that we should be like them, get most of the money and then lose it, because they're not something to match.
No,
because most of those companies are
now we're
failing.
starting to do
I
better.
digress, Brian.
No, to your point, I just want to add, my name is Mike President Anderson. I really appreciate the passion that you brought in, the example you talk about as a Afro-Indigenous man with 7 children, and myself as families indigenous to the coastal Carolinas as well, and having that, plus the obvious being a descendant of American slave. I think my first point was, hey, it's impressive to learn about what you guys are doing, but I definitely want to be deliberate and intentional to echo and say data around a particular struggle of Afro-Indigenous, particularly descendants of slaves in this country, is too often overlooked, and it's so easy to kind of lump in a narrative that doesn't really drill down. So for instance, I read that descendants of slaves represent around 80 to 85% of the black population, but if you look at places like Harvard or any of those other places, that representation will be grossly underrepresented, whereas in, for instance, prisons, it will be overrepresented. So I think it's just key to just not kid each other, because there's definitely some groups that are severely more marginalized in every single segment of fact in life. However, those groups do tend, to your testament, especially I also read that Afro-Indigenous women are the most productive in terms of giving them $1 in the return on their investment, and being somebody that's deliberate and intentional about elevating all people, but in particular the plight of Afro-Indigenous people. Definitely.
And come up with new discourses, new gaps in the knowledge. I really love that, because that's going to reduce the failure rate, and we need to manage perceptions as well, as well as reality. And the other area which we are passionate about, I'm passionate about, Axel is too, is to take companies who are already attend a certain level of success. How can we give them extra, make their success?
As I in the introduction said, Nate Gallen is with OMM. He has gracefully hosted us and sponsored us. You're coming, and your guest is Thomas with 40 people in taking 10 minutes, and you only spend 10 minutes, 10-minute calls of 10% of the Uber drivers every single day, because that's the amount of problems that you're going to see. You are currently a company with 20 people, so you have to hire 40 support people, but then you haven't executed anything, you only have listened. So you're another 40 that potentially execute. You cannot sustain, you will implode. Yeah, and as happy as he was that he could have gotten the deal, he had to think about twice whether he doesn't kill the company at that stage of his growth curve at that point in time. Does this answer your question?
Oh, yes.
Good.
Thank you.
So there are many important people here today that I would like to give the opportunity. I just wanted to show you, I can send everybody the full deck for more explanation. It has a standard financial terms, 2% management fee, and so if you would like to learn, you know my email address, you know how to contact me. I am more than happy to work with everybody in the system to see that we can put that dream together. Because California is a state where everybody came for a dream, even including me. In 1984, I drove in California when the German government told me there's only 2 FM stations per region that we are allowed to build, otherwise there's too much interference. So I drive Pacific Coast Highway, and there was every little turn of the radio knob, there was another radio station. I said, what the hell did they tell me over in Germany? So I fell in love with KISS 102.7 and listened it on streaming on the internet until I finally made it to LA. That was my California dream. With that said, my next presenter is Samir Mehta from IBM. We are so fortunate to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much. Unless you have any questions, Samir will take over for me now.
Thanks, Axel. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I came all the way from Orange County. Luckily, not terrible commute, but it's wonderful to be here. It's hard to follow Trish, my old good friend and classmate from Anderson. I'm also a UCLA alum, proud alum. And so I'm with IBM. I've been with IBM about 17 years.
That's mine.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't have a bill.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I'm just going to talk with this wonderful setting that we have here. I thought instead of bringing charts, you'll listen to me and we can have a dialogue play afterwards. Tired of charts, but this is a very timely topic. So I've been with IBM 17 years. I actually worked for a company in Orange County that IBM bought 17 years ago. So I'm in different parts of IBM, but for the last 11 years or so, I've been working in our corporate development merger and acquisition group. So my job is really to look for startups that we will eventually hopefully acquire, or my colleagues that are in the venture team, and that's how I got connected with Axel. One of my colleagues was speaking at one of their conferences in the Bay Area where she is based, because we also do minority investments alongside lead venture capitalists. Typically, companies will invest $2 to $10 million in companies or strategic areas of focus for us. IBM, as you know, is a large technology company. We're about 285,000 people in 107 countries. But our focus is typically enterprise software and IT services. So over the last 3 years, for example, we've acquired just over 30 companies. So if you do the math and say on average about 10 companies a year. They tend to be, from an acquisition perspective, we tend to focus on companies, typically 10 million in sales or higher has been kind of typical for us. We do go larger, but now we're really focused on much earlier stage companies that have, $1 million, a couple $1 million to look at those, but are really in our key areas around what we focus on, which is really cloud, data and analytics, security, sustainability. We bought a company recently that I worked with last year. Actually, I was sitting in Australia focused on ESG reporting around greenhouse gas carbon emissions. So that's another big focus for us as a company, because we had made a public pledge to be net zero emissions by 2030. And really, it's been something we've been doing for many years, but it's been a real focus because we do still make our own, we still have our own data centers and hardware. And so energy consumption in our own facilities around the world is a big focus for us. So what's really timely, and I'm not, being energy efficient, I just want to bring a copy of this, but we just published our 2022 impact report, or our ESG report, which is on our website. So I encourage everyone to go to ibm.com/impact. Very simple to remember. But this whole report is there, and we're very transparent. We publish this every year. We have a team really focused at tracking our own metrics. Within our company, we have a whole corporate sustainability group. In our whole HR team, there's a huge focus around being transparent as a company. And that's something that we've been a leader. IBM's been in business 112 years. So, Thomas Watson, it's from the very, very early days of being a very ethical, transparent company. So, I'm proud to be part of that. It's funny, when we talk about the 3 E's of, you got an ESG, but we're really talking about from an environmental impact. We talk about ethical impact, which I think with generative AI and ChatGPT is actually a much, much bigger issue, right? We're all trying to figure out how does that affect my job, my kids' jobs, all of our jobs. And so one of the big focuses for us, because we have been a leader for many years in inventing AI technology in our research organization. If you remember Watson on Jeopardy from quite a few years ago, AI is core to a lot of what we do. But what's fun about AI is the data, right? AI is only good as the data that it can analyze and that it can interpret and do natural language processing, machine learning. So ethics is very, very critical. So we've really focused on publishing and educating all of our suppliers, all of our partners around technology ethics, having an AI ethics panel, because as we know, the algorithms are based on who created the algorithms. And we know that's not always the diverse group of people in this room or around the world. And we know in engineering it tends to be male, it tends to not be all of society. So that's been a big focus for us, is to make sure we look at data holistically, we look at the biases in the data, and we know that's true. We know about all of the flaws so far of generative AI. So that's a big, big focus for us. And so you're not going to see us obviously be, we're not a consumer company, so we're not going to play in the OpenAI, ChatGPT space. But we are going to look at how can AI technologies augment and provide assistance to humans, because we've always believed in the power of it to help people do more, their jobs better, and not be in the mundane rather than replace people, right? That's been a big focus of all of the technology and all the AI that we invest. And then the third is the equitable impact. So we have very specific targets about, are we promoting women? Are we promoting Black and Hispanic, Latinx communities, within the company? And we have set targets, and we publish them in our report. And I encourage you to download the report and look at it. We just published it last month, the latest stats. So that's a big, big focus for us within the company. We have, key goals. I think in the last year, we promoted 60% of the female managers. Similarly, on we don't have, again, we need to do better, I think, in terms of Black, Hispanic percentages in our company. And so those are things our CEO is very, very committed to, and our board is committed to. So we look at all these things sort of in holistic view. But I'd say the areas I just want to touch on for this audience that we focus on. So we set a goal that we really believe that education shouldn't be a barrier based on cost. So we've really invested in a website called skillsbuild.org. It's free to high school students, it's free to colleges and teachers, because part of the thing is how do we get our teachers educated on all the new technologies that we all need to learn. And then we're also focused on adult learners. So if you go into skillsbuild.org and you just register, you'll see curriculums based on your role. And one of my colleagues is running it, so I've gotten some great info on it. And we've really worked to partner with nonprofits like the United Way. Veterans is a huge focus for us in military families. How do we educate our military when they come back from duty to be successful? And so we have curriculums around cybersecurity, data science, cloud, all the things that you could spend many thousands of dollars going to university. We don't believe you need a college degree. So we have really focused for a number of years a target of 30 million people to educate them through this platform, through the NGOs that we partner with. And this is now really global, starting in the US. We also had a really good initiative, which is, we called it P-Tech. We've kind of evolving for that, but that was to have 6-year apprenticeship programs that start at the high school level for kids that really want to get a leg up, and that we will have mentors will do that. And when they come out, they'll be really trained to get jobs, not have to go to a 4-year degree. So we call those new collar jobs, and we have really focused on hiring thousands of youngsters that don't have a college degree, but are very, very capable, willing to learn, and are taking these skills and courses. So that's really one big initiative, is education. The other area I want to call out is on supplier diversity. So we have set a target by 2025, 15% of all of the suppliers, and we have well over 1,000 suppliers that we spend money with, are going to be Black-owned businesses. So we're about halfway to that goal, about 7% today, but we have set a specific target of 15% over the next few years. And then the other area, which again is really on the environmental aspect, is around, we call it sustainability. And so we have actually focused this year on funding, spending about $25 million in terms of our expertise and support of NGOs that are focused on clean water. So we had other focuses on agriculture around the world, but this year we're really focused on clean water initiatives. So actually through May of 31st of this year, we do have a website for any NGO that's interested in getting our support and funding around that. We will help accelerate any ideas that folks have around clean water initiatives, which we know is huge for California, but for the planet as a whole. So sustainability accelerator, and every year we look at different areas of how do we help in different parts of sustainability and climate tech. So that's been a big focus. In the past, one of the other areas we focused on was call for code. We focused on different problems, whether it's the refugee problem, it's other problems, and we would just have a call for code nonprofit or initiative where we would really go and support anybody that's trying to create a social impact around that initiative. So these are just some of the ways that we think we can make a commitment. And again, I just really here to have a dialogue with you during break or after this ends around whether it's minority investments, acquisitions, or some of our initiatives that I encourage you to look online. And I'm happy to connect anybody with our supplier team or anybody within our organization if you want to learn more about those initiatives. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
And by the way, I'm very happy to see that IBM is raising the awareness of the bias of AI.
Yes.
See, when I started getting into open chat AI, I looked at it and says, we are creating a society that has a single mindset. Yeah. Because everybody gets their answer from the same engine, and the engine, I tested the engine, has a bias. So I asked the same questions where I know the answer already, and when I don't get the answer, it comes from the fact that the data that they don't allow in to be considered for the potential answer. So what is this good? This is not even there is no form of intelligence there, right? As you said, the people have pre-coded this. There is nothing happening on its own. And no, it will not replace mankind one day. That is my personal opinion there.
So this current evolution, now I'm speaking as my software engineer now.
Okay.
Yeah, so the current evolution of artificial intelligence is artificial narrow intelligence, that's ANI. The second evolution, allegedly, will be AGI, that's artificial general intelligence, what you're referring to. The last stage is the iRobot shit that everyone's scared of, artificial super intelligence, ASI. So I see artificial intelligence working kind of like the internet, or the World Wide Web, if you will. That evolution is supposed to become a point of time. So this current AI to a software engineer is not necessarily supposed to do that. We already know it's going to have biases. What we're interested in seeing, even Sam Altman himself with OpenAI, I think ChatGPT is just an underlayer for a bigger strategy for them. They want to become what Apple did with the iPhone. They want to be that platform for everyone else. Once they bundle everyone in, they say, okay, now you haven't spent 10 years building your own data. You spent 10 years dealing with our API. So now we got you locked in. And here's our true product, which is he's focused on artificial general intelligence, where there won't be a middle-aged white man that can say, I don't want to invest in this black guy because AI wouldn't agree with that. So we're not there yet. Maybe we'll be there in 70 years. I don't see it even in the next 15. A guy that's much smarter than me, our CTO, he disagrees with me. He thinks it's going to be about 7.5 years, but I don't see a pathway to AGI anytime soon because we haven't even seen what artificial neural intelligence can do.
We will be there in a space economy because it's brand new. It doesn't have a bias.
Well, it has biases.
Being structured from the separate body of knowledge that is very small. If you Google space economy, you don't find much. So that's an opportunity to influence it for people like you, your viewpoints, to get involved
Maybe not
at this stage. But at least you are invited. I had my mission to invite you, but you know that it's up to you.
Fair enough.
Okay, I think
Iron Rand, your delivery.
We are going from one corporate topic to the next. As I in the introduction said, Nate Gallen is with OMM. He has gracefully hosted us and sponsored us. And you're coming, and your guest is Thomas Klutz. Thomas is, in the past I would have said it's with NGK Capital, but that has changed. It's now Nitera Capital because they renamed. Not that the company changed, but the renaming occurred. Nitera Ventures is a corporate venture capital arm of a big Japanese company that has seen the future. The future is are cars without spark plugs. So if you make $1 billion in cash today, you apply this while you can into the future of other technologies, and that's Thomas's role to spend into the right projects. Half of them probably life science, right? The rest have to be deep tech. And this will be an interview. Nate will interview Thomas, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Axel. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you here. To Ed Devices, Life Sciences, you're a spark plug company, and you're a Japanese spark plug company. Can you just give me some basics around that before we get into the UNI?
Sure, yeah. So for the last 80 years, we've been manufacturing a spark plug. Been making a ton of money. We generate public knowledge. We make over $1.5 billion in free cash flow every year from the spark plug. We currently do. About 20 years after starting the spark plug business, we decided to make a materials business called MTK, which became the sister company of MTK. And that is our fine ceramics business. And for those of you that understand how a spark plug works, fine ceramic serves as an insulator outside of the spark plug. That enabled us to juice our gross margins, so financially motivated, but it also opened the window of opportunities to other sectors. So with fine ceramics, you can make a vast array of piezoelectric sensors, right? Our oxygen sensor is our biggest kind of service line. We sell that into the automotive space, and a lot of money into that. It took us 60 years before we really entered other sort of verticals outside of automotive. We made sensors into a vast array of different verticals, but about 5 or 6 years ago, we decided to sell our oxygen sensor to the healthcare sector, right? So we kind of did this market canvassing, and we're like, okay, who needs oxygen sensors? And we discovered oxygen concentrator companies can. And so we acquired a business like that. And so in the spirit of dovetailing off of that, because that's been a really good acquisition for us, it's diversified our revenue stream, we've decided to allocate billions of dollars on our balance sheet to venture capital and energy. So our model is, let's invest in really cool companies in the mobility space, which is our current book of business, clean tech, that's another area we're really bullish on, and then med tech. We'll continue kind of building off of our oxygen concentrator business. We realize our concentrator business is a little, bit of a commodity, so how can we invest in things that are not going to be as commoditizable, and then, kind of the imminent threat of our business is the obvious, which is the spark plug isn't going to be around forever. Right. Electric vehicles are on the horizon. Right. We've got some work to do, and so, fortunate to be sort of at the helm of that evolution. But we've got a 4 to 6 year horizon to deploy some capital. We're measured on what happens in 2030. So we're looking to get to $1 billion in fresh production by 2030. It's a bold goal, but that's where we're at. So we view venture as a kind of survival mechanism for our core business.
Yeah, you identified an existential threat, whereas a lot of corporate investors have it as a side-on or ancillary for potentially accretive businesses down the line, but they just intend to keep their main business going, like in Intel Capital. For you, it's existential because if you don't do it, you're going to die. So it's your future business is whatever you're doing in the venture arm.
Correct. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And kind of stage agnostic, check size, just to kind of give people here a sense.
Yeah. Very. It sounds like a broken record. A lot of VCs say they're stage agnostic. I would say we definitely do kind of pre-seed, seed, and A as one kind of section of the business, which is kind of $1 million to $2 million in check size. Yeah. And then we do growth investments, which are kind of anywhere between $5 to $75 million. And then our change of control practice, we can write checks in the $100 million plus range.
Yeah. And I think we were talking earlier, you mentioned some investors, strategic investors, they're pretty agnostic in terms of whether it's a financial return or strategically importance. In your case, clearly, since you have identified the threat to your underlying business, you want to be strategic relevant, but you have a pretty broad set of potential areas where it can be strategically relevant.
That's right. Yep, that's exactly right. Hit the nail on the head.
Good. So maybe we'll start. I know it was a controversial topic earlier today, but we're going to go back to that phrase DE&I.
Yeah.
How do you define it? What is it? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to NGK?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, look, it's kind of, to point out the obvious, we have been a largely Japanese-based company for a very long time. All of our employees in Japan are Japanese. And I think, DE&I for us is really about bringing a breadth of perspectives into our business, right? So we have done a pretty good job of growing in new markets, new cultures, new geographies. Done very well financially when we've chosen to do so. And I think the point of the venture arm and kind of the next 7 to 10 years is to bring as many diverse views into the organization as possible. And I think, again, DE&I definitely is sort of a marketing term, but I think for me, it's if I can find a unique perspective, individuals that think not like everybody else, right? That's going to help me push innovation forward. It's going to just make our business that much better, right? And so I think DE&I is about bringing different perspectives in. We've historically only hired males, so we are at the forefront of trying to intentionally hire more women, right? More minorities, right? That is something we know. We're not going to get there. We're not going to disrupt our own business without those viewpoints, right? That's sort of been my perspective and the company's perspective.
I can do this since I'm a black guy. So let me play devil's advocate for a little bit. So sometimes I hear in the press people saying, well, we don't need to focus on DE&I, venture capital investing. Look at all the sums of money people are making. Look at all the amount that the venture community has made returns that are just the envy of the world. It's not broken. People are making lots of money. What is it that, why is DE&I, if we have to appeal to people's baser instincts, which is it's going to be accretive to my bottom line, how is it that DE&I is going to help the venture capital industry if it has done, quote unquote, so well financially over the years?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So two kind of high level things I would call out. One is, pushing the status quo isn't really going to get you there, right? So I think this is sort of the anecdotal viewpoint I have, right? So we are needing to disrupt our business. Investors are looking to make multipliers of cash, right? I think you got to do different things at different points in time to really move the needle, right? So I think one of the things we've noticed, and this gets into my second point, and was kind of to the earlier presentation around, women-led founders tend to run companies better. I read a report, minority-led companies have better returns, right? Again, haven't looked at sliced and diced the data, but when I read things like that to me feels kind of like the whole point, right? We want to make more money, right? So if, because again, there's sort of a asymptote in a law of dissipating returns with venture capital community. If you do things the same exact way as you've done over the last 80 years, you bottom out, right? You can only hit a certain inflection point. If you want to get to that next level, I think you have to move the needle, and you have to look for other pockets of what were historically not pockets of investable opportunities.
Yeah. It almost sounds like we're leaving money on the table, and that the DE&I, putting aside the kind of equity and just justice aspect of it, as it relates to venture capital in particular, is that we're kind of, the whole venture capital industry is kind of blind to the money they're leaving on the table because they're so focused on however they're viewing opportunity and gain. Correct.
Yeah, one of my mentors in the venture capital world kind of gave me some good advice early on. He told me, don't have blinders on, don't get tunnel vision. Yeah. I think going after, venture is so muscle memory. It was kind of an earlier conversation. Why don't we do enough? And it might be the next question, but why don't we do enough DE&I? Well, it's pipeline and muscle memory. We haven't backed DI companies for the last 30, 40, 50 years in the venture capital world. So there's that muscle memory. And that's unfortunately the way it panned out. But if we can intentionally sort of step outside of that, right, without the blinders on, and focus on where the value is, we can make an intentional inflection point.
Yeah, it definitely seems that the term I would use is, which you said it in a different way, I'd say pattern recognition, which for evolutionary purposes for human beings has served us well for thousands of years, especially when we were in the savannah. But when you get to complex societies, it can lead to some success, but can also lead to a lot of blind spots.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
So one thing I've always been curious about, being born and raised here, both of us, is I understand the political, cultural aspects of DE&I and how we have challenges in this country with trying to expand, whether it's in venture capital or education access, have a more inclusive environment, have Latinos, Black people, just all women be part of the conversation, have more access and have equal access. How does it translate abroad? I've always been puzzled that, for instance, a Japanese investor or a German investor, and whether they're as focused on DE&I as a lot of the U.S. institutions where there's much more of a political and cultural mandate. So can you give us a perspective on that, whether it's NGK or Japan in general?
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of a broad term, right? Our definition of DE&I is non-Japanese, right? So the bar is incredibly low, right? But we in Silicon Valley, there's about about 30 of us in the Silicon Valley office. We know better, right? It's not just Japanese, right? It's really sort of, and this comes from the companies, like in fairness to the C-suite of Natera, NGK, very, very ethical organizations. So a lot of our decision making about hiring and investing does come from a moral standpoint, right? Doing good in the world, and also an impact perspective. We're publicly traded on the Tokyo Stock Exchange, and there are a number of KPIs we track around our sustainable manufacturing. There's not a lot of materials companies that manufacture at the volume that we manufacture at that can say their carbon footprint is as low as ours, right? So I think it just comes from the spirit of we need to do better. We need to do good in the world. We need to do better for ourselves. And in the spirit of Japanese culture, very much taking care of your employees, right? Very team-based approach, and very collaborative, right? So when we hire, our San Francisco office, or Bay Area office, I should say, is now probably about 50-50 men and women. When I started, it was all men. So we went on a hiring spree over the last year and a half. It's been amazing, and I can already tell our entire presence has changed. Right? We're really out there. We're doing quality deals. I for the first time feel like, wow, we're really attracting better talent now because we're out there. People are saying good things about our hiring practices, and it just creates a more fun environment. More viewpoints, more skill sets at the table, right? I mean, who doesn't want to work in a place like that, right? So I think that's what that's kind of where Natera is coming from on that.
So if we drop below the fund level down to the portfolio company, how does a VC, and how does maybe Natera in particular, how does that translate into selection of investment opportunities, or once you have one, engagement with your founders, engagement with the portfolio company? With regards to DEI and that, absolutely. So, we are just getting started. It's shameful. We need to do a better job of tracking we've been so busy trying to disrupt our own core business that we don't do enough of kind of tracking of some things, right? But one of the things we do track is equity, right? So we track equity. So we look at our portfolio companies. About 33% are women-led organizations or minority-led organizations, which is great. We also, we take board seats on most of the businesses that I'm a part of, and so from a personal standpoint, and just from a Natera standpoint, equity is important. So I encourage all of our companies to track equity at the board level, right? So with new hiring practices, one of our portfolio companies is currently going through kind of a CEO change, right? The business was founder-led, and now it's time to bring someone else in to kind of really take the company to the next level. And we're really being very intentional about that hiring practice, right? And so we also have some companies where we're hiring independent board members. You brought up Black women on boards.
Black women on boards. That's awesome, right? We're all over that. We'd love to talk to them. And again, an independent for us is about bringing very, very unique perspectives to the table that in an otherwise homogenous environment, you're not going to do, right? So that's kind of how we think about it, right? It's I'd love to see a bigger top of funnel, right? At the end of the day, conversion rates are conversion rates, and we only invest in 1 to 2% of the companies we see every year.
Yeah.
So my top of funnel, needs to have more DEI sort of representation,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I definitely look to sort of unpack those themes, and my pattern recognition, to your point, that's changing, right? As I focus on topics like DEI. But that being said, we definitely want to find the pockets of opportunity where we can create the most amount of value. And I think the only way we're going to get there is by managing the top of funnel and then our existing portfolio.
Yeah, yeah. So I have one last question for you. Then obviously anything else, any other insights you want to share with the audience? When I think about, someone said it earlier, kind of the mentality that founders take when they're building a company or ideating or building a company or seeking capital or making business decisions. And I have found as a lawyer working with startups and venture funds for almost 25 years that there's a cultural element, and again, here I speak to people who grew up in the United States. I can't speak to immigrants or to people from other countries, but I call it, the white man oftentimes, founder will take the approach of why not? It's just this assumption, of course I'm going to succeed, or of course I'm going to swing for the fences, to use a baseball analogy. Yeah. And I find that in venture capital, at least for non-white males, founders, or for women, a lot of times it's much more why, or much more, you should take the risk, you should assume you're going to, you should be asking the same question, which is why not? So so there's a cultural element to it. There are a whole host of other issues related to the venture capital community, but it kind of all comes together, which results in the statistics we see here. So I guess my last question, given that long lead up, is what kind of advice would you give to diverse founders looking to raise capital, founders looking to start a company, given that both the cultural challenges that many of us would have, just the kind of asking the question why, and also the institutional challenges that come from the venture community about supporting and investing in diverse founders?
Yeah, great question. So I think two things, right? Number one, I think find the investor. So it's always know your investor. If you're raising money, know who your investor is, know what their causes are, and know what can come. Just like you need to know whether they're a biotech investor or a medtech investor. It's a difference, right? So find your investors that care about these issues, right? Diversity, inclusion, and equity, et cetera. Like, find the folks who are loud and proud about it, because put their money where their mouth is, right? And point it out, right? And approach them about it, right? They'll definitely give you time of day, right? And so I think that would be part A. Part B would be go a little further and find the funds that actually specifically are targeting diverse DEI mandates. There's a company called Nova VC out of Nashville, Tennessee. They're specifically focused on Black founders, right? So if you're a Black founder, go target those folks, right? They're focused on the digital health space, so you have to have a health guarantee platform. Right. But I love that people are starting to raise funds around this mantra, right? So I think they're a $100 million fund. I just heard of a Black founder specific fund, $50 million fund targeting Black founders. Amazing stuff to hear about and see. So target those folks. And then the last but not least would be find the kind of, whether it's nonprofit or for-profit organizations that just care about the topic, maybe think tanks that care about these topics. They probably have a network associated with them. Black VC is one group that comes to mind that I met out of Silicon Valley. It's targeting folks who are minorities who are looking to get into the venture capital world, right? That could be a really interesting resource. They'll probably have, I took a look at their board of directors. It's a really impressive group of people from tier 1 funds, better funds than mine, but smarter people than me. So definitely worthwhile to kind of reach out to folks like that. I think we live in an environment where there's a lot of resources like that.
Yeah, that's helpful. Great. Well, thank you for your time, Tom.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was great.
Thank you, everybody.
So Thank you so much for your...
Small Business Development Center. I was an advisor. I became the regional lending manager. I covered 36 counties, the 36 most northern counties up in here in California. So Santa Cruz, up the coast to the Oregon border, over into Central Valley, Stockton, San Joaquin, up to the Nevada border. We had 18 centers and 6 satellites. I was responsible for financing. That's debt and equity financing for small businesses. Then I became the director of something called the Inclusivity Project. Jeanette and I was working with the governor's office helping doing the disaster relief funding at the beginning of it, and we were fielding probably about 400 to 500 small businesses on a monthly basis that were needing disaster relief assistance. At the beginning of that, we got some statistics from UC Santa Cruz that said there were more than 1 million Black and African American businesses around the country. And at the beginning of the pandemic in February, by mid-April, 440,000 of those businesses permanently closed their doors. And so that was shocking to me to know that you have the largest business consulting firm called SBDC in the country. We are in every county. How did these 440,000 businesses not know to come to get help for us when we were helping SBA to administer the disaster relief assistance program? So I went to my leadership and said, listen, we need to do something about that. We need to be first responders. We need to go out in the community. We need to have feet on the street, boots on the ground, and get in front of folks. Because the biggest challenge for SBA is that folks don't know of the tools and the resources that are available, especially like the SBDC. Those tools and resources are completely complimentary. They're free. Taxpayer dollars are allocated on an annual basis to be able to provide technical assistance. And so we launched the Inclusivity Project. And when we launched, we had 4 key matrix that we wanted to do, 4 key goals. We wanted to invite 1,000 Black and African American entrepreneurs into our ecosystem in Northern California. We wanted to help start 100 new Black and African American owned businesses. We wanted to lend $100 million to these small businesses. And then we wanted to make certain that 50% of the work that we were doing were Black and African American women owned businesses. Fast forward a year and a half into it, we had over 3,000 Black and African American entrepreneurs and small businesses come into our Northern California ecosystem. 360 small business starts. We had over 125 million in funding provided to these small businesses. And then 48% of that work that we did were all Black and African American women owned. So when you have success like that, you have the Milken Institute, you have JP Morgan Chase, you have Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Comerica, PayPal, Salesforce, and Microsoft reach out to you and say, we like the work that you're doing in Northern California, but we think you need to take it national. It shouldn't just be in Northern California. Hence, that's why we launched something called Extending a Helping Hand. It's a national nonprofit, public benefit, and it's a holistic organization. What I mean by that is we look at the individual. If you need assistance with starting a business, growing or scaling a business, we have those resource partners that we can help you out there. And then if you have personal life things going on, we help women with human trafficking, we help with housing assistance, food, childcare, transportation, legal, whatever you need. We have that through our partners over at Opportunity Knox. And so what I wanted to share with you is really extending a helping hand, because when Axel talks about DEI, when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, extending a helping hand, we have 4 key matrix, or we have 4 mission priorities, should I say, and actually it's 5 mission priorities now. Our goal, why we exist, is to advance marginalized communities. It's to help support socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. And the 5 areas that we are doing, first and foremost, is the National Black Entrepreneurs Project. So our first key priority is working with the Black and African American community. Next is the Native American community. Next is the Hispanic and Latinx community. Next is the LGBTQ+ community. And then next would be the Asian American community. And when we talk about helping these marginalized communities, it's really meeting you where you are and having a conversation about what your needs are, what your goals are, what your opportunities are, what threats that you have, just really whatever it is that you're looking at. And so we have partnered with about 60 different cities around the country. We launched the National Black Entrepreneurs Project last September at the Congressional Black Caucus in Washington, D.C. And so we've had 60 cities all embrace the work that we're doing. And really what it is, again, it's taking a look at things like this. When we talk about the business side, when you look at the business side, you look at the business life cycle. You have pre-venture, right? There's this ideation. I have this idea of this product or service that I can monetize and have a quality of life. Then you have your startups. Then you have your growth mode. Then you have your mature mode. And then you have your transitional. The transitional is the exciting piece that we get a chance to talk about when you're in ideation. Transition is, what is your exit strategy? What is your succession plan? What does that perfect day look like for you to be able to exit this business? Where are you living? Who are you living with? You know, what kind of car are you driving? What kind of community and volunteering work that you're doing? You know, really having that conversation up front. Now, I'm excited because my partners and I, we created something called Vibe Acquire. So you take BIPOC and acquire, and you combine those two words together. Vibe Acquire is something that we're going to talk about at the Milken Institute during the conference. It's really where you take BIPOC individuals that are acquiring existing businesses. So you don't have to start from scratch. You now have improved your rate of success. As a, you can throw statistics out, the number of small businesses that fail in the first 3 to 5 years. You can throw those statistics out there, but you can address those statistics when you take an existing proven model, a customer base, and you can then have someone acquire that. You're going to benefit the city as well because they're not losing those jobs, they're not losing that tax basis as well. And so for me, ultimately, at the end of the day, when the alarm clock goes off, for me to get up in the morning, I'm excited because I'm excited about being able to create, you know, communities around this country that we can all live, work, and play and raise our families in. So I'm going to pause there, see what kind of thoughts, questions, because then the next thing I want to share with you is the work that we're doing from iBank in regards to the state small business credit initiative, because Axel brought up some things about access to capital. So I want to pause and see, were there any questions or any comments about what I've shared thus far? Yes, ma'am.
I work with, as a philanthropist and investor, with a community in the city called Lompoc, California.
Yep, I know where that's at. I went to school in.
You did?
Oh, well, I went to UC Santa Barbara and we would go to Santa Maria.
So this is completely, and I want a government bid to develop California Space Center in order to bring space entertainment, tourism, innovation, because it synergizes with Vandenberg Space Force Base, where most of the people do not know we have a massive space resources. My foundation for the last 6 years has been developing programs for space inspiration in Lompoc, and of course we went globally. Question, I am very inspired by your presentation, because it might be just what Lompoc needs, because it's economically deprived, companies are moving out, unemployment is rampant. I cannot solve all the problems.
Right.
Are you and your program suited to put, you know, pretty much astronaut suit and jump into the cities like that and work with the local communities?
Absolutely, we welcome that opportunity. Yeah,
So,
if you want to connect with Jeanette, she can share our contact information and get yours, and then we can have an exploratory conversation to talk about. Now, I'm going to accept that invitation, but I'm going to share with you. I am really interested in quantitative work, and what I mean by that is I don't want to just sound good and say I'm doing something. I want to be able to periodically, let it be once a year, twice a year, be able to quantify the work that we're doing.
this is what I'm doing, because I'm a private investor, so plus the philanthropy program is very, very interesting. I was recognized by Kamala Harris, White House, and all that, so I have all those, you know, attributes. But what you just described is missing. There's no one for me to go and tap on.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy to talk to you. Sure. Yes, sir.
In your statistics in your job, where you talked about where you covered and made all these loans and everything, you know, I've been aware of this, you know, government money and this and that, but I've been doing this for 40 years, and I've never successfully been able to get any results from the types of programs you're talking about. So when you say you do debt and equity funding, and the numbers that you talked about and who you help, were these primarily companies generating revenue that got qualified to get loans and so forth? Because in my experience, I've never seen any equity investing from the state of California that I'm aware of. Maybe it exists, but I've never seen it. And I've helped people fill out a lot of forms, and no, it just goes dead.
Sure.
I've got a lot of smart women I work with, black, brown, Asian, that aren't getting results. Okay, so I'm just curious if you can address that.
So we average about $125 million a year in debt financing. I've not done any equity financing myself. SBDC, we have done equity financing. So Steve Roth leads that effort for the SBDC ecosystem. But extending a helping hand, the National Black Entrepreneurs Project, NorCal Financial Development Corporation, which is one of 7 of the development corporations out of Oakland, California, we average $125 million a year in debt financing. We have about 300 different financial institutions that are all certified to be able to offer a state guarantee.
You're facilitating then as a broker in doing the applications that then get pushed out? Or?
No, we're not a broker. We're a government agency. Okay?
Okay.
So we're part of iBank, the Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank from the governor's office. We are the synthetic collateral on the back end. The banks are lending and funding, and we're providing them an 80% guarantee up to $5 million on deals that go up to $20 million. Okay. So we're not a broker. So you typically, if you were a small business, you wouldn't typically come to us first. You typically would go to your bank. Your bank would be uncomfortable with something of cash flow, collateral, credit, and then they come to us and say, would you be willing to put an 80% guarantee on the back end of this to mitigate our exposure to risk? So that's what we do.
Bank application.
No, they do that.
Right, I mean, not you.
Oh, no, there is an application,
Right,
absolutely.
that's what I'm saying.
And then the cool thing that we do, though, so we get, the cool thing is that we cover the full spectrum of financing. So let's just stick with the debt side of it, right? Because you're absolutely right. There's very few places that you can go and get equity injection into a small business unless, you know, you're a fast-paced startup or you're getting some VC funding or you're getting some angel funding or you're doing some crowdfunding. But we do startup financing. So we do that based on a 12 or 24 or 36 month projection. So we'll need a business plan with several small lenders that do startup financing. We do the micro lending as well, so that's $50,000 or less. We have something called a Jump Start program where it's $10,000 or less from the governor's office. And then we have the traditional and conventional financing. Then you're done with that. Then we move into private money. We have private lenders that they are accredited investors. It's their money. They're not FDIC regulated. They lend based on their terms that they want to do. Typically, you're looking at 12 to 18 months. They'll do interest only for the first 6 months. And some require collateral, some don't require collateral. And then we have those, if someone needed to go that route, we have merchant cash advance lenders. So we cover the full spectrum for folks. And what our goal is to have a conversation with you and to make certain that we minimize the number of no's you get by making sure we're sending you to the right organization. So when you bring your presentation, we're going to have this exploratory conversation. Why are you looking to borrow money? What are the uses of the proceeds? What's your primary and secondary sources of repayment? What do you look like so we know what we're dealing with? So do I need to work with any of my lenders that will accept a 551 credit score or not? So we will really do that work up front. Our goal is to help you secure financing, not just give you access to go and apply and be turned down. So that's our work.
So question.
Yes, sir, please.
So I want you to discuss or demystify a bit about the pipeline.
Okay.
When I'm talking to entrepreneurs, my wife and I, we have the fortune to be the VCs that founders think are cool.
Mm-hmm.
So we get a lot of deals that come in front of us. Mm-hmm. Over the last month, I've talked to 2,500 startups, literally. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so much so my wife has to bring me on the Zooms, bring me food, and make sure that I'm okay.
Right.
And I'll even give you another story. So we have Founders Meet Funders. I'm telling my wife, I was like, you go for our tech company. I'll go as the VC. Mm-hmm. And maybe I should have sent her. So I had to sit in this chair and literally talk to about maybe 150 founders, and it was excruciating on my body. But what I found is, what I don't see in this pipeline is always this organization where we help startups get funded. It sounds great on the front end, and then when we start to demystify the paper, my wife and I, we like that as well. We like to go through 900-page documents. It's always some extra this and extra that to actually get the money.
Right.
And when you contrast that to what I discussed earlier, for example, I think stories matter with Twitter. So when they met with Mike Maples, who runs Floodgate Ventures, or Floodgate Capital, one of the biggest VC firms in Silicon Valley, Evan walked in and said, hey, I want to get your money back. He's like, for what? He's like, the company's going to fail. You should take, I don't want my money back, Evan. He's like, well, you probably should, because I'm giving the rest of the investors. So, all right, I'll take my money back if you will let me invest in your next thing. He said, what's your next thing? He said, oh, we're building this app that lets you say what you're doing. And he's like, what's the business model? There is no business model. What's the revenue model, Evan? There is no revenue model. I figure 1 million people make blogs, 10 million people will make micro blogs. The onus of proof are on the people that are negative. He wrote him a $5 million check, that was for Twitter. So the problem is, we don't have that in our community or in the people that you're attempting to serve, where the fact of the matter is, if I raise $250 million, my wife and I tomorrow, we're already going to say 50 million of it is just going to hack ideas. If we look in the founder's eyes and we believe they can get to the next stage, it's on the napkin, we're going to write them a damn check. Because the reality of it is, that's how Silicon Valley got to where they were. You okay, need some water?
I am fine, just
Okay.
nuts.
Yeah, well, make sure you're
Or
okay
maybe
with it.
speed of your talking, or both.
Yeah. So I see that's why I want to understand as far as your pipeline.
Sure.
Are you guys actually investing where there's a lot of speculation, a lot of uncertainty, where you could just, how the record label signed Usher because he danced on the table, and they didn't know if his vocals were going to be great under Pro Tools or anything. It's like, this person has star power. We have to sign him today. I don't see those deals being made with these organizations that represent so-called us.
Right.
It's always this, oh, we're from the government and we want you to feel it. It's a bunch of bullshit, to be quite honest with you. And
Before he answers, I want to ask what you're saying.
fair enough. So what I want to understand is where you guys sit in that pipeline, because outside of the pretty words, most of these organizations, like 99% of them, when we actually get to the core of it, you're better off just going directly to the bank and letting them tell you no. At least you'll feel better that they're smacking you directly in the face.
Sure.
So I know, before you answer, because it's going to lump it together, I know why you say you want measurable results, because you're the government. I spent my entire 20 years consulting for the federal government, many federal government agencies through technology.
It's a DC girl.
From DC, I know the government, like the back of my hand, the bureaucracy that's involved with it. I was always on the commercial side, so I didn't have to actually be an employee, but I had to assist the government make labor-intensive processes even more labor-intensive.
So,
utilize the
yeah.
technology.
So
what I want to say is, and then on the startup side, I understand. I've assisted people apply to programs like what you're doing. And what my husband is saying, it is so painful, and you don't even know where you're going to go next. You can apply for that. Most people who are in the startup world who want to move fast, want to get money, the talented people will push those government lending programs to the side because they just don't want to deal with it. They don't think that you guys would be the right people to face scrutiny to decide if you want to get shot.
Sure. So let me clarify something for you. I don't work for the government. I'm a partner with the government. I own my own company. So Chris reports to Chris and Jeanette. That's it. So I help to administer the governor's program because I see the value in leveraging having access to that resource. So that's what I do. So just want to clear that up. I do not get a check. I volunteer. I chose that program because when we first started, when I was working with the SBDC as the regional lending manager, I got introduced to the Financial Development Corporation, and I saw the way that, to answer your question, the organizations that are certified in the Financial Development Corporation world are mission-based lenders. So they're not solely writing and underwriting to the 5 C's of credit. So they're not solely looking at cash flow, collateral, credit, character, and conditions. And just for those that not real clear with that, when I say character, they're not looking at your morals, your values, and your integrity. They're looking at you as an individual business owner to operate the business, what experience you have, what industry experience and stuff like that. So I, Chris Horton, don't want to be a government agency. I want to know that at the end of the day, I've literally helped you. I've moved you from one place to the next. I didn't just have a conversation. I don't just sound good. Like, I literally want to know and have an annual meeting with you that when you first came in, and what I do is, what my team and I do is, the question is, what needs to happen in the next 12 months for you to want to continue working with us next year? And that's my report card. You told me, I mean, there's 5 stages of a business. What you need as a startup is going to be entirely different than what you're going to need when you're in the growth mode. What you need in growth mode is going to be entirely different than what you need when you're trying to transition away from the business. So every year I want to know, what are the priorities this year for the next 12 months that we're going to work on? And at the end of the 12 months, we're going to circle back and did we accomplish that or did we not? So that's why I need quantitative numbers, because I don't want to just sound good.
You sold me on that, not to beat a dead horse, but again, I'm not getting the whole idea. Paul Davidson and Rohan, they raised from A16Z at a $100 million valuation with 1,500 users.
And you're speaking over my head.
Yeah,
I don't know those folks.
No, this is Clubhouse.
Oh, okay.
So the idea was, and then they raised at a $4 billion valuation. I had 50,000 followers on Clubhouse, had some of the biggest rooms, and I got kicked off by the CEO because I said, I don't know how this company is worth $4 billion. I have no idea. And then when I looked at the SEC documents, A16Z led every round, which is a bit different. They didn't go to Sequoia to lead the next round. So again, what these guys have in Silicon Valley, they can go and sit in front of Mark Entries and say, yeah, I'm starting a new company, Mark. I don't know. We like this audio thing. We've seen some apps in Asia do it. And yeah, we need $10 million, but we're only giving away 10%. Oh, okay, fine. Write them a check. It's like that has to exist if we're going to actually help the community.
Right.
Because the programs you're saying, I think that they're necessary, but I see it as layers. Your programs and all of the alikes are the foundation.
Exactly.
Because it's not going to be a million Mark Zuckerbergs or Jeff Bezos.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, we don't have any black Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerbergs.
Right.
So my theory is, let's get to that first, and then we'll deal with the middle minutia and the foundation level.
So-
Let's get the black farmers some checks immediately.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. We knew you were going to actually drop down there. Here's another check. Because the fact of the matter is, I'm talking to so many of them, and it's just a bunch of bullshit that they have to go through when they see Clubhouse just fired 50% of their employees. That is going to fail, as far as I'm concerned. You guys can quote me on that, by the way. But do they care? No, because he knows after he started Highlight, he raised all of that money. It failed. He went to work for Pinterest. He started Clubhouse. This failed. So he just said, oh yeah, I'll start a new one. Adam Newman. They just got $350 million from the A16Z, the WeWork guy. It's their largest single investment ever, A16Z. And then Mark Andreessen sat out and he defended him. He said, yeah, Adam's great. We need people like him in society. So that's what I'm attempting to hear and hearing on these organizations.
And that may be for another organization and not mine. My organization, we are really focused on the micro and mini micro, the mom and pop, the owner
You can do
operators.
two parts.
I could, I choose not to. I want to stay in my lane and I want to do what I know that I'm going to be effective at doing. And what my experience, I've been in finance for over 20 years. And, when I think about, minorities, when I think about marginalized individuals, when I think about low to moderate income communities, I don't need VC. What they need are some basic access to tools, resources, information, education. So I want to play in that space because that's more of the people that I've seen over my years. And so I want to do that. The stuff that you're talking about, that may be Axel, that may be Casey.
Economic development as opposed to a unicorn strategy,
yeah.
helping people really grow. You don't need to make a billion, just
Exactly.
I want to pay and feed my family.
That's
Yeah, but the
my
people my
focus.
age and down, they're not thinking like that. They want to make billion-dollar companies.
And again,
So we have to deal with the reality of what the environment is. So
and that,
Still,
Steve Jobs said, what we do is our business, what people do is where we should be.
so the number one thing I want to do is I want to make certain that people have financial freedom, security, and stability. And so the folks that I'm having conversations with, we're not having $1 million conversations. We're talking about I'm living paycheck to paycheck, Chris. I want to pay my bills. I want to feed my folks. I want to feed myself.
So when you
I
said
wanna
100
feed my-
million, that's how you got me there.
Oh, the 100 million
Yeah,
was
that's
the
a lot.
total of loans that we did in a year in funding that we lent out to people.
That's pretty impressive.
It's very
That's a
impressive.
lot of capital.
It's a hell of a lot of capital.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but it's all focused on mom and pop owner operators. It's really those small one operator with two family members working.
My wife and I are going to get Chris on this other side.
Yeah, we can work on this. Thank you so much, guys. And by the way, my answer to you, they should. But I am in the business of risk mitigation. I would like to teach entrepreneurs to avoid the pitfalls. I was the first one to say that talking show thingy there, yeah, is not going to. That is 2 years spent and it will be out of business. And I was right. And I'm on the record with many other things of similar nature. I don't like the BS ideas. I would like to create great ideas that actually have great payouts. Now the program is being taken over by Casey, and Casey, it's the longest time on my heart. So you have been also selected for award.
Dedicated to the
audience.
greatness of the audience here.
Yes.
And we foster diversity of opinion because diversity creates unity. On that note, I'm thankful. I'll accept it without asking too much questions. But thank you. But here I'd love to
Casey
start.
spends endless days and nights to actually help prepare, do these things in Northern California. His heart is only in one area. It's called entrepreneurship. And that's his dedication of his life.
Well, thank you, Axel. And we at Pitch Global, we want to create discourses, and plug in the gaps of discourses out there. That's rooted in philosophy called epistemology, which is what is knowledge, what is not. These are noted, part of, both Christian, Jewish, Buddhism. They all have a very strong, at the highest level of wisdom, we question our own knowledge. That's what Socrates said on his deathbed and others. So on that note, I want to first briefly mention the last presentation. Chris, I loved what you said about the BIPOC acquire. Those are things we need to think about and come up with new discourses, new gaps in the knowledge. I really love that because that's going to reduce the failure rate, and we need to manage perceptions as well, as well as reality. And the other area which we are passionate about, I'm passionate about, Axel is too, is to take companies who are already attend a certain level of success. How can we give them extra, make their success faster? Like one company he just mentioned, AlternaCard, they got a huge grant from MasterCard saying, okay, if you hit these metrics, we'll keep giving you this funding. That way, from next year, they may not even need funding because the MasterCard deal, is huge. So how do we pick people who have earlier chance of getting to the finishing line and really mentor them and get them access to, CVC funding, to sovereign fund investments? How do we create that discourse? I don't see much going on that. So we at Pitch Global, we have very deep experience in entrepreneurship, funding, mentoring, and we want to shine the light on gaps in the knowledge, like what we just heard, BIPOC acquire. I think that's great when they can show funding levels, success levels of companies they have mentored much higher than the normal VC return because they're already taking over existing business. This is where we can really elevate the consciousness. And the other area is diversity funding should also ultimately create impact. And today, our last two speakers, first speaker will, on this impact track, first speaker will really give you the big picture vision of how diversity can create impact. And our second speaker will tell you about the real meat and potato of how the details can be sewed up so that there's no mistakes made up front. So it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce someone who's been associated with Pitch Global for a long time. Very stellar resume. Among others, he helped start Singularity University and ventures in Latin America, and has been a mentor to people like CEOs of major banks, second biggest bank of Brazil. He spoke about it in one of our past events. He's also affiliated to Pitch Global as entrepreneur in residence. It's my big pleasure and privilege to introduce Newton Paskin, to talk about how diversity funding ought to create impact. So floor is yours, Newton.
Yes, I wouldn't.
By the way, if I just may add one thing, Casey and I are measured also by something which is called economic impact, right? We have years over year running $60 million, and this year we only half year in, we are at $80 million, right? Okay. So far. So that's why I said to you, Duran, that we love to create real world and not a fictitious world.
Yeah, and I would like, if we can have a dialogue and a conversation, because I love what you said. I think we need to go back to basics. We have been using tons of marketing terms. We have been doing a lot of things, but there is one thing for sure. We are not doing good for humanity. The difference between the poor and the rich has increased tenfold in the last 30 years. This is not development. So, from my standpoint, as a responsible capitalist, I want to increase the marketplace. I want to increase the size of the market so everybody can win. Not concentrate in 1-2% and develop everything for 1-2%. One recent discussion I had with the largest insurance company in Brazil, and it's the third largest in the world, they still have a family controlling interest because they are public. And the patriarch said, we have done very well in the last 50 years, but we haven't done good for everybody. So I really would like to work for the 95% of the population that we don't work today. We have worked to 5% of the population. So what I would like from our role is how we can impact the rest. So this is what I would like to share with you guys. And the first thing is I would like to have a real laser focus on what is diversity, what is impact, because everybody talks about, and if you probably, but when we talk about concept of society, it's where are we talking about? If we are in Saudi Arabia or if we are in Switzerland, I mean, it's a different society. So we can't talk about concept of society. I think we need to talk about concept of humanity. And as such, we start understanding a little bit more what we need to do. And again, when we talk about impact, I also would like to frame impact. Those are the 17 verticals. It used to be 13, but they have been expanding from the United Nations. So when we say, I want to create impact, that means that I am actually contributing to reduce one of those problems right there. And one of the issues that we have as venture capitalists or corporate VCs is we don't use this. We look at how can I make 5 times my money in 3 months, doesn't matter what. And when we talk about diversity impact, I want to finance this. I don't want to finance the next app or the next game. And this is where we can start moving the needle. And we, responsible corporations, responsible VCs, responsible angels, it is not deal flow. We need to create the deal flow. And how you do it? I give you one example that I used in Latin America as well as for 2 companies in Norway. I said, you go out and you tell, I want to resolve the water problem in XYZ. I have $20 million here. Who wants to do it? So you create the deal flow that will impact one of those. You don't wait that someone that is, you know, what you said, you know, the group of PayPal that always invest, always on the same guys, always on the same thing, all the time. No, get out of this and you start creating your deal flow that you want to do based upon this. Then we are creating impact. Otherwise, sorry, it's pure marketing and BS. And I think it's extremely important that we are all in a connected world. Everything one does impacts the next one. Everybody knows 30 seconds later. So let's use this to our advantage. Let's, in our microcosmos, start talking about, yes, I want to insert diversity that creates impact and start combining several things. And how we do that? Well, as I'm discussing, let's apply real diversity that creates impact, moves people, and the companies that make the world. It's us that drive. We should not be driven. And this is, I think, the paradigm. And the things that we need to change is we are extremely reactive. We need to be much more proactive. If we really want to do it, do it. Don't wait. Don't talk about it. And one other thing that I would like is also to add to what I said, diversity and impact, its purpose. Because without, you have to have that purpose to drive diversity and impact. And let's not do it. And in my past, I did work with defense. DOD had this tremendous, oh, you have to be minority owned. You know how many companies I was responsible for selecting them? And as soon as I turned the second layer of the onion, it was all make-believe. The company was owned by traditional white males that have hired some black individuals to be the front end. They were minority owned. And like such, so we have to create a department to peel the onion, to see who was. And we cut, I kid you not, 73% of our minority suppliers were fake. But we did comply to the DOD that you have to have XYZ. So this is for you because I think IBM has to do the same. And when I was at Apple, we did exactly the same thing. And at Apple, I will give you that number, 45% of the minority owners were fake. So we need to be extremely incisive in looking for this. Otherwise, again, marketing. And I love what you said, because it is true. We need to create purpose, and we need to design that purpose into our mission. Not only company, not only department, but each one of us individually. Because on a day-to-day, you do it at home, you do it to your kids, you do it to grandkids, you do it to your employees. Then you start designing and changing things. Otherwise, I'm sorry, it won't happen. And I would like now, from a concept, because we are all in the business. So how are we gonna actually start applying those things that is much more from a feeling standpoint, from a not some business school type of a process. So I would like to bring the business school process and how we're gonna apply feeling and emotion. And decision making that includes those things. And at this point, I would like to say it's extremely nebulous, and that's why I love this picture, because this is exactly how I felt 25 years ago. I had these bright ideas, I had the power to do it. I said, well, what am I supposed to do? There was no mentors, there was nobody that had this idea. And then I went back to a book that I read about 10 years before, World Class Manufacturing by Dr. Deming. And Dr. Deming, for the ones that do not know, is the one that implemented the whole process of production, the Kanban at Toyota, and changed completely how production and supply chains are managed in the world. And one thing Dr. Deming said is, any corporation, any business, to survive and be successful, has to satisfy all stakeholders. You can somewhat prioritize one stakeholder in a time period, but not on the long term. And as soon as you do that, and he created a picture that's really nice, 5 stakeholders that grows this way. So yeah, you can go like this, but it's almost like a concentric circle. You toss the rock on the water, you can see those concentric circles. However, pull from the middle, and you're going to see that they continue to grow equally in all directions. And in order to create this framework, what he did is, number one, you have to have your stockholders, the people that put your money in our case, investors or such. We need to satisfy them. Secondly is, we're going to have the team, right? Without the team, nothing happens. And then the next step is, who are my customers? I have to satisfy my customers as well. However, at the same time, I need to satisfy my suppliers. And those issues that we have to deal with, they are all the time paradoxes, but that's how we live. It's solving paradoxes all the time. And last but not least, and that's the most important for all of us, that most of us forget, is that we need to satisfy the community that is also a stockholder and a stakeholder, sorry. And this is one thing that has been missing in all our business decisions lately, at least for the last 50 years. I am originally from Brazil. I came to the US in 1978 to go to Berkeley, and then I went to USC afterwards. When I came here, my son was born at Cedars-Sinai, best hospital in Los Angeles. I had a student insurance from USC. I had a private room. I paid $0 for the whole labor and the beginning of the life of my son. You know how that costs today? With the best insurance in the world, you still have to pay $50,000 to have the treatment. So what is wrong with this? From 1980 to now, have we screwed up so bad? So that's what we need to go back and say, where is this missing piece? I'm not a socialist, I'm not a communist, I'm a responsible capitalist. And a responsible capitalist, and this is something that I heard that I love. A responsible capitalist is an intelligent vampire. And you know what is the difference between a dumb vampire and an intelligent vampire?
None you did.
The dumb vampire goes to your neck, suck all your blood, and you die. The intelligent vampire sucks everything but the last drop, and then allow you to grow the blood again, so you can go back and suck it again, and again, and again. That's the intelligent vampire. So if you are an intelligent capitalist, you're supposed to have exactly the same thing. You create a consumer, and you keep milking that consumer. But in order to milk that consumer, you have to give them money. Otherwise, there is no way to be a consumer. And that's the thinking process that we need to have. So without the community, that doesn't exist. So after that, what I would like to start closing a little bit is that I personally, I'm a technologist. I was doing artificial intelligence in 1980. I started working with satellites looking for Bin Laden in 1990s. And we had all kinds of algorithms and billions of dollars from the government. There was no budget for us. I don't believe in AI. I don't care. You know why? Singularity will not exist until we can codify love, passion, and human feeling. Because our decision making is not based only on data. Our senses and our feeling, our emotions are part of that decision process, and there is no way, at least that I know today, to codify it. And from the technology and everything else, yes, you can create algorithms, bias, and for me, I'm an engineer, it is just a very, how am I going to say, it's a very fancy regression analysis with a bunch of data. That's it, nothing else, right? So that's why I would like to bring this, because this is the weapon that humanity has, that you can codify. If you use empathy, that generates the purpose, that then gives you the diversity, that gives you impact. Now we start creating a framework in which we human beings can work, and we can create real impact on the whole thing. Use empathy, use it. And I would like to define empathy in a very, very simple way. Put yourself in someone else's shoes and try to understand how that person thinks. That's it, simple. It is not crazy. So if you're trying to, oh, I want to help you. Well, do I understand what you need so that I can say I want to help you? Otherwise, it's BS. And we have created this relationships based upon gimmicks and marketing that are now becoming commonplace in our decision making. So let's go back and use empathy all the time. And with those different ingredients that I was talking about, we can have, you know, a possibility to actually change the environment. So number one, I said, let's have real diversity. Secondly, let's drive that diversity by creating impact. And then, remember purpose? Let's have purpose in doing those things. Let's use the best weapon we have that no one will codify. And as such, we can actually create what I call a real sustainable environment for us as human beings. And it's extremely important. I'm not sure, everybody talks about sustainability, this, and that. Look at this one here. This item on the sustainability gradient, it's very, very badly understood. Society here is humanity, not that society that I opened the conversation. So this is humanity. Now, economics and environment, everybody talks about and understands. This is the critical one. But in order to really have a sustainable life, we have to have all of those together. Thank you.
Newton, that was fantastic. When you presented to us before, your case study on you helping CEO and board of second largest Brazilian bank really resonated. So can you sum it up?
So let me give you some examples that using this that I just discussed with you, the number one was the insurance company that I mentioned, in which the founder decided to make this change and say, how can I impact 95%? So he talked to a company, that company, consulting company knows me and worked with me. So they called me, I went to Brazil and first talked to the patriarch. He's a billionaire. You know, he himself is worth more than $10 billion and the family is probably 30. And he said, I really would like to put my money where my mouth is. I said, really? He said, yes, it's okay. So then you are selling insurance, life insurance, car insurance, and homeowners insurance, the traditional insurance that we know. And he was a very successful company in Latin America, covering about 5% of the population of Latin America. And I told him, look, if a person is making less than $30,000 a year, and that's a pretty good salary in Latin America, they don't have any insurance whatsoever. They only have the car insurance because in order to have a car, you have to have a minimum insurance. And they charge to the wazoo because you don't have a good credit score, whatever. They say, look, if we start working for this 95% of the population, we need to create a new product because it doesn't exist today. And the guy came back to me and said, I want to really do good, and I think I'm going to make more money doing good because 95%, it's a lot of people. I'd say, yes, if you do good, you're going to make much more money than today. And that's what is done. We created imagine a portfolio of insurance policies in which you have this 20 plus insurance policies that are available to you. However, you only subscribe to them as you need. You don't have, so if you are a young person, you have your medical insurance and you have your car insurance and you have somewhat of a liability insurance. All the other ones are dormant. Now, if you are an older individual, let's say we'll give you an 85-year-old, you have a life insurance, a hospice insurance, plus all the services, memorial insurance, all included. But it's the same portfolio that you start paying as a small token of your salary on a monthly basis. And you keep paying until you die. However, everything is covered. Whatever you need, medical or dental or insurance, liability, homeowners. So this was one example of something that was done. And today, that company, in 4 years and a half, they doubled in size. With a market that didn't exist. The best one of all. Braskem is the largest producers of polymers in the world. They are a Brazilian company, but they're also based in Houston, Europe, everywhere. And those guys want to disrupt and innovate, and they read my resume, they knew I was Brazilian, so they called me, flew me down, and they knew we want to create a corporate venture just focused on disruption and innovation. We are doing a lot of innovations, but I think we need to do more. And I said, so what are you doing? So I had the whole executive staff and the board. And this company is worth like $100 billion. This is a huge company. And they start telling me what they are doing, and after like 20 minutes, I say, guys, stop. Everything you told me so far is continuous improvement. You're supposed to be doing this as part of your salary. There's no innovation, there's no disruption, there's no nothing in there. And then the CEO, he was a little bit, he didn't like my comment. And he said, okay, Milken, what is innovation for you? I said, look, you are the largest polymer company in the world, right? Yes. So you produce plastics, the product that produces plastics, right? Are you aware that half of the world is trying to kill you and eliminate you from the face of the earth? He looked at me even worse. And then it's, by the way, are you aware there is an island of plastic in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that is the size of Australia? He said, yeah, I'm aware of that. Okay, so what are you doing about it? You want innovation? You want disruption? Solve that problem. And give a reason for the people that are trying to eliminate you, not to eliminate you. Then I became a Martian, 10 meters high, with antennas. And now you think too different. No, you asked me what is innovation for you. This is innovation. So those things are happening. I mean, we have done a lot of things on water, creating portable filtration water so you can pump from the river and you actually filter and you can support a village. So those type of things were done by CVCs, mega companies that were trying to suddenly start moving the needle. And we did. So it is possible. It's not that I'm talking, no, I've done it. And I have had some issues here in the US. It's a little bit more difficult to do it, but in Norway, in Denmark, as well as in Brazil and Uruguay, we have done it, and I think we all can do it together.
Fantastic. Definitely implementing thought leadership at the highest level. And now we invite our last speaker before we begin the roundtable, where everyone will have a voice and introduce yourselves. We have someone who can show you how to implement impact and create your impact organization without and make sure the mistakes and learning curves do not happen. They take their knowledge and experience and to show you how to get it right from the very beginning. So we have Create Impact, and we have Rachel Carson from Create Impact, also CPA with Friends. Her organization is going to show you the path of how you can make your organization jumpstart your impact organization. So Rachel, the floor is yours.
And as Rachel comes up, I'm going to take the opportunity to present the award from the Los Angeles Tribune. My name is Ava. I'm the senior editor of the newspaper, and I just wanted to read this for you. It's in recognition of your outstanding contribution and exceptional leadership in using your voice to uplift, inspire, and educate others. Ooh, who's got a camera?
There we go.
Thanks, Rachel. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Well, I have some slides, but I honestly think that I probably am just going to let you review the slides and hand out later on at your convenience. There's all sorts of different things about going last, right? That can be positive, but I'm appreciative that you're all here still. So thank you. And I wanted to say to this gentleman over here with a fabulous hat, love you, all of the vision, amazing. And I want to congratulate the beautiful, beautiful, successful woman that is sitting there that is obviously has a whole business story behind her. So
well, she
wonderful.
Manages him, right?
Well, I can already tell that there is a lot more behind that.
Yeah.
So that is fabulous. And Newton, I think that honestly the story that you presented, your speech, led into my speech.
Awesome.
Right? I think it was literally the river that is flowing into the ocean. Now I'm too humble to say that I am the ocean. Because I am too humble to say that. There is no way. But I will say that there is one single thing. There is one word. There is something that we have all spoken of. We have all embraced. We have brought it up repeatedly. We've said it. We've spelled it. We've showed it. And that's the word impact. Right? That really is the word. It's impact. And we've even said the two words, and thank you also for saying the two words, create impact. And what an amazing concept. What an amazing concept that we all have the ability to create impact and a difference in our life and in the world that we live in. So that's my little opening phrase. Just to let you know who I am. So my name is Rachel Carlson, and I am a CPA. I also call myself a strategic thinker, an entrepreneur. I am also a CFO. I am also the founder and president of Create Impact, my organization. I am also the founder and managing partner in my accounting firm, Carlson Partners. I basically am a numbers person. My slogan, funny enough, get ready to laugh, numbers are sexy, right? I'm also a teacher. I also taught for Becker CPA back in the day. Also a product of the Bay Area, also a product of the dot-com boom. What an amazing, amazing, wonderful ride that was, right? Until it wasn't. So many different things that I've done in my experience and in my life. How many of you, see, I'm going to take a quick count, see how many people are listening. How many of you look forward to doing your tax returns? Show of hand. How many of you get really excited when you hear the words Form 1040? Nobody? Okay, so imagine this. Now, I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to go behind this, but I'm going to just tell you. So I was the 9-year-old that would look forward to going to the post office with my mom, and then I would load up the tax forms, okay? And I would carry home the pile secretly in a bag from the post office. As soon as I got home, of course, I was scolded. Well, what are you going to do with the tax forms? And I said, oh, I'm going to fill them out. I have 15 business ventures right now, okay? And I did. I actually filled them out. I had my Sparkling Sales and Services. That was my first company at 9 years old. Then they later on merged and became acquired, okay? I went on at 13 years old to do basically a hostile takeover of my best friend's company, hired her to be my VP of marketing, negotiated her sales commission to where she had no salary, only commission with bare minimums with regards to the actual goals that she had to meet for my candy company. So, plus my supplier, of course, was Fedco, you see. Had to make sure I got the boxed candy with a little bit of a window and an ability to be able to have an up price, an uptick, right? And wanted to make sure that I undercut the ice cream man by 10%. That was my motivation. The whole neighborhood knew where I lived, I can tell you. So then going through that, definitely had a love for numbers. All of a sudden woke up one day, went to college, and decided that I was going to be an accounting major. The rest is history. Became a CPA, landed in the Bay Area, and loved every single minute of it. So I do consider myself a natural born entrepreneur. I cannot tell you how many times people have laughed when I've had form numbers memorized with regards to revenue rulings, and well, no, that actually refers to 2020-15 with regards to the actual inventory, considering as far as direct write-off versus capitalist, and they're kind of like, who are you? Well, I kind of used to fill out forms as a kid in front of the TV. That's what I did. Yeah, no, I wasn't actually abused by my mom, but I just really enjoyed it. So that's the kind of numbers person that I am. So that being said, in all of these different discussions, in the discussions about lending, in the discussions about venture capital, in the discussions about moving forward, and in the discussions about, business ventures, everything in my mind comes back to the numbers, right? So if I were to go into a bank tomorrow and I said, gosh, I've got this amazing idea, so fabulous, I literally want to produce the very, very first bicycle, okay? They're gonna say to me, gosh, well that sounds great. Do you have any numbers? They're either going to ask me about tomorrow's numbers, they're going to ask me about yesterday's numbers, right? Or they're going to ask me about today's numbers. Well, I will say that I am, and this is a phrase I came up with, I am the person that is the bridge. I want to bridge capitalism and philanthropy. So that is me. Because in my experience in the Bay Area, I was able to understand not only the for-profit side. I went through and had audit training. I asked my boss when I was going to be able to take a vacation, and after he laughed at me, he told me that there might be 1 week between Christmas and New Year's that I would be qualified for a vacation, because I would not only be doing tax preparation, but I would also be doing audits. I would be doing for-profit audits and nonprofit audits. And I thought, wow, that's a lot of work. You know, but I didn't complain too much, and I decided, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to be very, very aware. I'm going to learn. I'm going to listen. I'm going to focus. And that's what I did. So in my times in the Bay Area, I learned quite a few things. I learned tax preparation, nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations. I learned how to do audits, financial statements. I'm a little dangerous. I will tell you, the ex-boyfriends from college, they're a little scared that I still have their social security numbers memorized, which I didn't try to do. Didn't try to do it, but it's, unfortunately, it's a natural thing. So when we talk about numbers, the visionaries that I work with in my organization, most of them don't have a clear understanding or comprehension of either what today's numbers are, what tomorrow's numbers will be, or what last night's numbers or yesterday's numbers or last month's numbers are going to do for them. So I am that bridge, because numbers are my game, right? So create impact. An organization that I founded when I worked up in the Bay Area, I thought that it was an amazing opportunity after becoming a CPA to donate my time to help set up nonprofits. This was the late 90s. Yes, you're right, I did actually get my CPA at 10 years old, so thank you very much for acknowledging that. It was astounding, very young, extremely, extremely young. That was a joke, everybody. You can whew, cut it like with a knife. Okay, anyway, yeah, I'm a little older than 30. So, I did receive my CPA though in 1998, which was a big achievement. So during the time in the Bay Area, I thought, you know what? I've got a lot of time on my hands. I mean, you know, I only worked 75, 80 hours a week. I ought to dedicate some time to philanthropy and actually give back to some of these nonprofits, some of these different causes that they're wanting to either get their tax exempt status, they're wanting to go through and get their books in order, or wanting to do their tax return prep. And I thought, well, like I've got 5 hours available on Sunday afternoon. Why not, right? So I started working with nonprofits. I would drive up to the city, I'd volunteer, I would do this for free. And I did that because I just thought that it was just a positive, it's a positive thing as a professional to be able to actually share information and to be able to help your community. And so I provided this. And, you know, I'd say probably a few months were going by, the word got out a little bit that I was doing this. The Journal of Accountancy calls me up and they said, well, we want to interview you. We heard that you're literally like giving accounting services away for free. And I said, well, I mean, they're nonprofits. I mean, so it's kind of, you know, I mean, I'm making money, right? I mean, I'm making money. I mean, I had, you know, a nice car, right? I had a nice place to live. And I said, they're nonprofits. And so, yeah, I'm giving my services away for free. And they said, well, we've got to talk to you. Like, why would you, I mean, you can charge bookkeeping. I mean, some of these nonprofits and everything, I mean, they have a little money. Maybe they could pay you a little bit of a bookkeeping fee. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not really a bookkeeper. I am a CPA. And they said, well, yeah. But they said, well, why would you ever give your services away for free? And I said to them, I said, well, why not? Like, why not? Why not? It's not as though I didn't have enough clients. It's not as though I didn't have a nice lifestyle, and it's not as though I wasn't able to afford my lifestyle. So for me, providing something and giving something back to the community that I was a part of, right? To nonprofits that were struggling and didn't have the resources to bring on board staff accountants that were going to do their books, take their receipts, handle their ledgers, you know, all these things, words from back in the day. But I thought, well, why not? Why not go in there and actually provide them 5 hours, you know, 10 hours a month? It's no big deal. So that was the concept. That concept grew. I have an accounting practice. I've never ever had to market myself. It's a little strange. I'll just admit something to you guys. People actually remember me. I know it's very weird, but I'm definitely the accountant. I'm not the typical kind of accountant, and I'm decent at what I do, but people remember me, so I don't market myself. So fortunately, I have been able to go through and, you know, have some success in my life. And I thought, you know what, I'm getting older. I need to start an organization that actually provides the ability to bridge capitalism and philanthropy. To provide that bridge knowledge and expertise to those individuals that are in underrepresented communities, right? Less represented communities that are going to benefit from having a financial statement prepared, from having tax strategy discussions, from having cash flow projections, from having budgets. All of these types of things are what empower those entrepreneurs and those individuals in order to proceed and move forward with discussions with banks, with VCs, and with other individuals to really grow their company. So that is what Create Impact does. I think that it's the right time for this organization. We have a network of individuals that have come together in this organization to provide training, resources, strategy, education, and I work with amazing individuals, and we all have pulled together this network and this opportunity to be able to kind of help grow these companies and these young entrepreneurs to be socially conscious, successful entrepreneurs.
And one of the amazing individuals is right here on the left.
Yes.
Gail, come on forward. No. Yes.
Yes.
Come on forward.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. He is an amazing individual. And I have worked with this person since 2015, and he is absolutely outstanding. And we have an amazing working relationship. And we really just want to, we just really, really want to do good. We really want to be able to raise people up, and we believe all boats rise.
Does anybody have a question before we go into our roundtable discussion? How you feel about today? What we can deliver the next time? This was our inauguration meeting, which every year we're going to have it and we make it bigger. And so, any questions for Rachel or my friend Dale at this point in time? Then otherwise I invite the moderator. Thank you so much. Casey, you are the greatest moderator for the event.
We must hear from Dale first. We didn't. I know personally Dale, but we need to know. You start the roundtable with you.
Sure. To sort of kick off, or I say piggyback off what Rachel was saying and why we've been working together since 2015. I had the opportunity as a child to work in some extraordinary situations. I was on the Mickey Mouse Club as a kid with Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, and all those guys. And Disney trained us how to be socially conscious entrepreneurs at that age. They not only let us get behind the camera and work production, work the creatives, but they also taught us financial responsibility. You've got all these kids infused with all this money. As you know, the horror stories that can happen there. So we were taught all kinds of things that, fortunately, I was able to put to use much later. When we started working together, I was most passionate about this lack of understanding about how to go from A to Z if you're a young person that has a great idea. Where do you start? You don't know anything about the law. You don't know anything about, accounting. You don't know anything about marketing. You don't know anything about production. You don't know anything about anything, but you have these visions. So my first focus was on children and young adults, giving them training with entrepreneurship. Then when we started working together, we expanded that to young people and young adults and later older men and women. And we were able to produce over 250 socially conscious entrepreneur business acceleration experiences. And we would bring in some of the most popular leaders, from Ashton Kutcher to Richard Branson, to come in and teach these young people how to be socially conscious entrepreneurs, how to give them tools, techniques to learn, grow, thrive, and ultimately to give. So that's what we're really excited about. That's our mantra. We have a network of about 10,000 humanitarians, business leaders, celebrities, artists that collaborate to help us hopefully usher in the next generation of do-gooders. Fantastic.
Now, we are gonna go the roundtable like this. So please before I invite you, we are gonna, the two people, one left. So I'm gonna give the intro for him. Keith Coleman, he was here earlier. Portly African American gentleman. He is the trustee chair emeritus of Tesla Foundation and part of Wharton Angels and Stanford Angels, and he's affiliated to one of our investors, and he's also helping with the UN fund. So very amazing gentleman. We had a great conversation. And Axel will give the intro to someone who wanted to come, RSVP, but has not showed up yet.
Yeah, so actually I could almost speak for Chris, or Chris could speak for him. Gene Cornelius, who is one of your inspiring guides, right? He works for the Milken Institute, and unfortunately he couldn't make it today. Always something happens on these events, right? You're being pulled by the side.
Not surprised. They had an agenda that he didn't know they had an agenda for him, so he's speaking.
Yeah, but we hope that we will reach out further into the organization in the future and continue the great work, and potentially even next year put it inside the Milken Institute venue itself, because that's what this forum actually deserves, the broad recognition of what we are trying to do. And then, without further ado,
we are going this way. But
this way.
Gene is also President Biden's appointee to the Exim Bank of US. So we want to invite the world, and a great person, great mentor for us. So we are going to go like this, 2 minutes. So we are.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for a great event to the organizers. My name is Eva Blaisdell. I am a product of diversity. When I got my first job in Silicon Valley, when I asked why me, when there were hundreds of MBA graduates, and they said, HP that hired me said, well, because we wanted to diversify courage. And because I think what brings this group together is courage. I made my first big money as an American entrepreneur in Silicon Valley when my company was sold for $400 million, but it was in 1994, so it was much more. I've been an entrepreneur ever since. I have had also opportunity to work with presidents of different countries, including President Wałęsa, President Bush, on bringing the mega American funding and technology to Central Eastern Europe after we gained freedom. Right now, I invest with courage in space as an investor, creator of a blockchain-based space diversity and space economic platform. We, for example, host a cargo that is going to the moon on our platform for the purpose of transforming it into the startups, projects for Louis Vuitton, and some other brands. I am a founder of Foundation Lady Rocket Foundation, which I founded after I won bid to build California Space Center next to Vandenberg Space Force Base, because city of Lompoc is diversified. But everything that you were talking about, and bravo for what you were sharing with us, Lompoc is poor, neglected, diversified, but no one pays attention to it. So through Lady Rocket Foundation, I have created a program of investing in entrepreneurship technology, which now went global. I just came back from Ukraine. So bottom line, I put my money where my mouth is and go moon young men, just like we did go to California, what was it, 100 years ago. So thank you. I will be dashing back to the Milken event, and wonderful to be a part of this particular group, and go moon and stay on track of diversity.
All right. New hands. We are going directly to our next participant in the roundtable.
I am Ivan Markman. I'm currently an investor, advisor, and board member. Originally from Argentina. Came here to study. Thought I would save some money and go back home, and the Argentinian economy just imploded. And I joined the digital technology fray, helped grow some businesses, sold those, and got into investing as part of that. So I've been doing a portfolio of operating and investing My last big project was fixing Yahoo inside of Verizon and spinning it off and selling it to Apollo. And I'm now exploring climate tech and education technology based here in LA, although sometimes it feels like the base is an airplane seat. Most recently have seen a big advent of data-driven businesses that are helping improve climate in particular. In many cases, leveraging satellite data and whatnot. So that's in particular an area of big focus. Lab partnering with early stage entrepreneurs and helping scale those businesses. So that's kind of the areas of focus right now and exploration. I recently joined the Center for Impact at UCLA Anderson as one of their board members. So hoping to scale that both from the private sector but also from the academic side. So thanks for very interesting conversation. Thanks for hosting us. And over to.
Hi, I'm going to keep it short. My name's Anna Shen, and I came with Sam Brown, who's an analyst at Raven Capital. We're a Toronto and Silicon Valley based fund. We do Series A mostly. Lots of different sectors, fintech, ag tech, deep tech, lots of different verticals. We're about to open a fund in Dubai. Lots of activity everywhere. So I'm open to hearing if anybody has any great companies for us. Thanks for having us.
Oh, we have no shortage of
Okay, all right.
One is sitting next to you, Tracy.
My email is anna@ravencapital.com, RAIVEN.
All right, Tracy.
You can find me on LinkedIn also.
Hi, I'm Tracy Hazard. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Podetize. We are the largest post-producer of podcasts in the world. And we have been working on AI since 2018, and we have discovered something really interesting in inclusion and diversity. Because we started out as, we have part agency, part technology, we discovered how bad the AI transcription system is and how skewed it is towards white men. Because the data is based on white male broadcasters. That's it, all the data started as that. And so because our company is not, we have 50% women, we have Black voices, we have BIPOC voices, we have just all kinds of different diversity there. We discovered that it's not as good as they think it is. And so where they claim that they have about 85% accuracy, because they have 85% accuracy for white men, but for even white women, it'll be about 60% or less. And Black voices, it's about 40% accurate. So what we've been doing is we've been teaching it. We've been teaching it within itself because we do full production. So we would do the production and we would feed that back into the information and we would teach it. And now we are very sure that we are getting close to 85% on all voices. Well, we don't have a lot, we don't have every single segment, but we're going to keep floating that out. So that's what we're looking forward to. You'll be hearing about us in the future as we roll that out. But for the Casey, Axel, and Dale and I all met because I used to write a column for Inc. magazine on disruptive innovation. So innovation is my game in my area, and I find it really interesting that we're still having this conversation about diversity of voices. And when I agreed to write the column for Inc. magazine, I said, I will only write this as long as you allow me to feature underserved audiences. I want to serve startups that you don't hear about every day. I don't want to write about Elon Musk. I just don't care. I want to write about the nitty-gritty people on the ground doing things in really innovative and interesting ways. And they said, fine, until about the third year. And every day in that third year, they would harass me and they would say, well, you know, if you had Elon Musk, Steve Jobs says this, and I was like, he's dead. Or you put Elon Musk in the title, it's going to do better. And they ruined the way that I could write and the people that I could write about. And so we're still having difficulty getting those voices heard, getting those startups featured, getting to understand what they're really working on. And so if you really want to work on that top of funnel, I heard someone say that, I think it was someone who's not here anymore, so work on that top of funnel to get those startups in, we're really going to have to expand out because those of us in that part, we just stop dropping into the investor funnels. It's not worth it. It's too hard for us to get in front of you, to get the money that is needed. It's not worth it. I'm building a business and I'm going to do it my way and I'm just going to keep going. if I come across you, that's great. But it's just too much work for the women, well, especially Black women. I hear it all the time from them. They just don't even want to bother to apply to your funds. So if you really want them, you're going to have to go out there and find them. Thank you.
Great perspective, Tracy. You're next.
Can we get your email real quick, though?
Absolutely.
What's your
TRACY at Podetize, PODETIZE. So like podcast with monetize mixed together.
I love that.
.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brad Turner. I work with a company called Marketing Completion Fund. Currently, right now, we're advising, consulting med tech, ad tech, hemp company, a variety of companies in different sectors, and helping them with their capital raise, marketing, growth strategy. Tim Draper back company that's I'm helping do an event out in San Bernardino that trying to do economic development in that part of the area, taking advantage out in San Bernardino or Riverside. We also this year have 5 events we're producing for, that's good for everybody here because just a lot more deal flow and a lot of investors. We've been generating investors for about 40 years and helping build companies. So we're spending a lot of money and very low cost. You can just show up. If you're an investor, it's free at most of the events, or we can help you with your strategies to find capital and just expand your network out, just like the organizers of this event. Just keep helping network,
Yeah. Great. Next person, Standy.
Expanding, okay. My name is Ava Manuel. I'm the senior editor and the strategic partner of the Los Angeles Tribune. We're a company that's been in the California ether since 1886, but in essence, we're also a startup. So we acquired a company in 2018. By the time everything's kind of gotten through all of the legalities of it, it was 2020, and it's time for COVID. And so we are right now growing the business with the special thought leader edition that we're doing quarterly. And the one thing that I love about how we run our media company is that we have made a difference. We're saying that we are redefining how a national news brand should do media. So we are focused on news that's uplifting, inspiring, and educating. We love to feature entrepreneurs. We've got speaking events, and we've got newspapers that features, the ones like you were saying.
Get to that stage, but don't know what to do at that level. So I'm here to learn and expand, to actually partner with the VCs so the small guy can actually get there when their business is actually turning over, to get, like you said, those $1 million, $1 billion ideas, to be able to actually share that with our community. Right? Because a lot of people in our industry, there's a huge gap. Even a lot of my friends play professional basketball. They have no idea what to do with their money, and they have millions and millions of dollars. And it's a huge gap from venture capitalists, wealthy and the ultra high wealthy, and the Black and brown communities. There's a huge gap from there knowing what to do with their money. So that's where I come in and kind of bridge those gaps.
Can we get your email?
Yeah, it's Chandler Thomas.
You're next.
At do Chandler Thomas. I have a few. I don't know what email you want to send to, but
Sure.
you could do.
Sean Salas, co-founder and CEO of Camino Financial. We're the first national neo CDFI. For those that don't know what a CDFI is, it's a community development financial institution. We've deployed over $200 million into overlooked micro businesses, predominantly in the US Latino market. For every dollar that we put to work, we create a measurable positive impact of 60 cents on the dollar. So that's roughly $120 million of savings that we've created and value that we've created for our members. Been doing this for some time at this point, and so it's interesting when, having been in multiple roundtables, I can be a bit jaded a little bit in terms of, how do we make impact but be pragmatic about it? Because at the end of the day, the best you can do is level the playing field, at least for Black and brown entrepreneurs. And we can talk about access to capital, but we also have to get to the root problems of, okay, the average size of a Latino-owned business generates $200,000 in revenue per year. That's a fraction of the average size of any small business, and let alone when you're small, there lies risk, right? And how do you de-risk? And that's not just a function of capital, it's a function of financial education And that's a tricky problem to solve. So we've been in the business of solving that problem, and happy to share any ideas that can be helpful.
Great. Next person.
Hi. Hi everyone, Ravi Bhatia. I'm a principal with Verona Capital Partners based in Orange County. I'm an Anderson alum as well, so I know Trish was here speaking about the programs at the Anderson School of Business. So what I do is I work with startup companies, early stage, mid stage, late stage, for growth equity, growth capital, fundraising, financing, advisory work from investment banking to technology side, and even helping them scale the business across the U.S. as well as international. I have all sectors pretty much at this point. Like, I have tons of deal flow, just because I'm not really looking to go out and get deals, but they're just coming to me, thankfully, because of my vast connections and network on LinkedIn, as well as from Anderson and my Bay Area roots. I worked in Silicon Valley for about 15 years in the tech sector, so I'm very familiar with how the venture capital world works. And as far as my sweet spot, I would say any company that's 5 up to 100 million in market cap or even higher. Clean tech, technology, automotive, healthcare, life sciences, biotech, and so on and so forth. And surprisingly, I have some women entrepreneurs who I'm working with as far as in their sector. So I am more than happy to work with anyone as far as doesn't matter what race, color, skin you are. To me, it's anything that's impact. I can certainly help and make more of an impact for them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Happy to be here. And my email address is ravi@veranocapitalpartners.com. And I'm on LinkedIn as well.
How do you spell that?
RAVI@Verano, VERANO, capitalpartners.com.
I born and raised in Thailand, small town, and I was dreaming that one day I'm going to be a multi-millionaire and I'm going to be an investor. Even my English is not that good, but I follow my dream. Coming to Silicon Valley and live in really close to Steve Jobs' house. My dream almost come true.
I'm a mindset coach, a meditation coach, and breathwork coach. I'm also working with business entrepreneurs and women, and I also produce events on women empowerment and conscious awareness. I help people to expand their consciousness, connect better to themselves, to their inner child, to their higher self, and I help women who went through abusive relationships. There's a for that. I'm humbled and honored to have the privilege to co-create an event in the past with Casey. We're connected through City Gala, City Summit. It was an incredible experience. Thank you for having me again.
Of course. We have one of the people, Dale Goldbowley, one of the
yes,
people,
I've recognized you. Nice
person behind City
yes.
Summit here.
Yes.
Next person in the middle.
Hello, I'm Farouk Abbasi. Among a couple things, I founded Diversity VC, which is one of the largest nonprofits globally to place people with different backgrounds in the industry. So 750 interns, 200 full-time folks. And then, day job, I'm a sole GP of a $50 million fund called Preface Ventures. The majority of our LPs are minority and female, and the majority of the founders we back are the same. And mostly do seed stage, like $1 to $2 million checks, and then enterprise infrastructure, cybersecurity, fintech, and healthcare.
And the person we are waiting all afternoon to hear from. No, they've already been interviewed. So it's you. This guy. Yeah. We've been waiting all afternoon to hear from.
Yeah, so my name is Duran Davis. I'm a 36-year-old entrepreneur / investor. I'm originally from Detroit. I didn't get the opportunity to mention that earlier. I've been in Los Angeles now for 6 years. So I was the youngest investor in Detroit. I started when I was 16 doing angel investments. And I was the featured entrepreneur of the year 2016 with Bill Ford. They kind of owned Detroit, Bill Ford and Dan Gilbert, hence why I departed. We always had this ideology, myself and a few other founders, Delane Cornell being one of them. He raised $100 million for Play Versus. He moved from Detroit around the same time I did. And we said, one person can't be bigger than the city. And Dan Gilbert is one of those people. He's like, hey, so we have to get the hell out of here. Unfortunately for them, they lost a lot of their founders, specifically to Los Angeles, because all of us here, and once you get here, you're not going back. Gotta tell you. So I run a firm called M&D Ventures alongside my wife here. The M is for Maya, the D is for Duran. and she's the CEO of the firm. I'm the Chief Investment Officer. We're currently investing out of a $10 million fund called the Prodigy Fund. The average check to about $125,000. We're also launching P12, that is an incubator for us to launch for new VCs and also in founders. She runs a firm called Els Ventures, and I run DFD Venture Capital. That's more so of a micro VC, because I like to make my own personal investments. So when I disagree with my wife, I can just invest in my own firm. Yeah. and I'm also a partner in Davis and Davis Venture Partners. One of my best friends, he bears the last name as myself as well. Perhaps we were in another universe, we were brothers. And that's a funds of fund. So we help find other investors and we invest them as well. So as I close and sweet over to my wife, because you guys will let her hear about her background more than mine. Yeah, so our 80-20 rule for us, 80% of our time is on our tech company. Although we're here for venture capital, it's kind of easy for us to invest. We're really good with numbers. We understand it, we cut directly to the chase. Our big thing is, are you writing a fucking check? If you're not, then you're just doing a lot of talking. So we don't do that. We don't talk to entrepreneurs to get them advice unless we're considering writing them a check, because otherwise we're wasting our time. Because advice means that, unless you're writing a check. So that's 80% of our time on our tech company. 10% is on our personal assets. We invest in the stock market as well. My wife alone made $1 million in Tesla. I didn't believe her until she showed me her Fidelity account. And I was like, oh, okay. That's pretty impressive. So, and the other 5% is on our family office and 5% on recreational. Because as I said earlier, we are parents of 7 children. Yes, we're young, but we have 5 teenagers, a 9-year-old and a 1-year-old. And yeah, I have a musical background. I play 3 instruments. We have a multilingual household. My wife's original language is Arabic. I speak 4 languages. And yeah, we like to learn, we like to study, and challenge people too.
Oh, you guys will learn that. I'm Maya Davis. I'm 34 years old. I'm Sudanese Hungarian, based out of Washington, D.C. is where I was born. I moved to LA, met my husband, the rest is history. So we're venture capitalists. We're also tech entrepreneurs. By the way, we are raising. So for all of you venture capitalists, we're raising. I'll talk to you guys about that later. The way that we contribute to everybody, to our venture capital firm, and we just write checks. We're writing checks. We're just disseminating them. We don't put too much scrutiny. We're industry agnostic. We're stage agnostic. And we really focus on psychology and philosophy with our entrepreneurs. We want to know exactly where they're coming from. The numbers are second. She's a numbers lady. So maybe you can help some of them, but we also have a creative studio for our entrepreneurs. We assist them building their business, kind of like the girl that hatched to the growth stage.
That's amazing.
Yes, and we'll learn more about everybody. And
see, I knew we were going to have energy when I saw you.
Also, so I told Axel, you guys are invited to our cellar if you like for a portion of the after party. We own a wine cellar in Beverly Hills, the one my wife and I reside. It's actually the only wine cellar in Beverly Hills that's 24 hours. The other one is Wally's. We like Wally's as well. But this particular place is super exclusive. We have about 30% of the restaurants in Beverly Hills there. Contrary to popular belief, when people say a lot of black shit, I was the guy that was helping fund their companies when they were going bad during COVID. The Beverly Hills Enterprise is my LLC. If you go through the documents, you'll see I own that. So I funded a lot of these businesses. Oh, you guys are going bad. You're not so strong after all. So our cellar, after the event, I suppose we're gonna get some food somewhere. And then you all are invited to the wine cellar as well. So pretty impressive
You can lead the way as well. You know, probably we've done our own.
Now I'm the host. Great restaurant. I didn't mention I was a host as well.
Let's do it. Yeah, we are about to say yes to everything. That corner is back.
No better player
So
than here.
can we have the last 3 intros?
The best.
We can start here. Okay, we're gonna start here.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a program specialist in the USC. I start next week. I'm just here to learn more about, what it is like the venture capital world is like and how it interacts with other people's society and other different networks around the world.
Hi, I'm Catherine Ree. I'm a technologist in BC. So nice to meet you.
Awesome.
TJ, I'm an investor, management consultant, and just here to kind of listen.
Nice. I mean, investor privately or part of any fund?
Later stage, post-Series A and private equity as well.
Okay. Great. And one of our other friends, we have, how about you?
Oh, hi, Leslie Munson, single family office based in New York, industry agnostic. Earlier stage.
Great. One of our friends left. He runs TIE in Southern California, and Jerry, who's been big supporter of our events over the years. All right, now we come to the end, and Axel, you will open it for some networking, right? so that people can talk with one another. We end this event at 5, and after that we can go to the wine bar. Let's do it. Yeah, follow your way to leadership. We believe in that.
Show our friends who wants to go to the wine bar now.